America is addicted to oil. We have less than 5% of the world's population, but consume more than 20% of the world's oil. This year, we'll import about 60% of the oil we use to the tune of over $600 billion. We're addicted to oil, and our addiction is threatening our security, our environment, and our economy. Two-thirds of the world's oil reserves are in the hands of Islamic countries, many of whom support jihadist ideology that fundamentally opposes freedom, and whose chief tool for fighting freedom is terror. The money we use to buy their oil is being used to finance terrorism. After 9/11, the U.S. declared a global war against terror and its state sponsors, but the only states we acted against were Afghanistan and Iraq. Our war on terror fights the symptoms of terror, not the cause of terror. Terrorism originates with state-sponsored radical Islam, and the two biggest sponsors are Iran and Saudi Arabia. It's not a coincidence that they're also two of the largest oil producers in the world. To make matters worse, terrorism also raises the price of oil. Terrorism causes uncertainty, and uncertainty about whether oil supplies will be cut off raises prices. It's a never-ending cycle where high oil prices fund terrorism, and terrorism increases the price of oil. But it's not just about national security. Our addiction to foreign oil also threatens our environment. Oil-based transportation is the #1 cause of air pollution in urban areas. Trucks and cars are among the top contributors to greenhouse gases. The reality is, we cannot address our environmental problems without drastically reducing petroleum use. The environmental impacts of our addiction are severe, but they pale in comparison to the economic effects. This year, the U.S. will spend over $600 billion on imported oil, more than our entire defense budget, and almost twice as much as the growth in our gross domestic product. That means that even when our economy grows, there will be no improvement in our overall prosperity because all the growth goes to paying for foreign oil. Long term, the impact is even worse. When drug addicts can no longer pay for their addiction with cash flow, they start selling their assets. Our oil addiction has now reached that point. Over the last few months, investment funds controlled by Islamic governments have bought significant shares of some of America's most prestigious corporations. At current oil prices, OPEC countries could control every major U.S. company within 5 years, and within 10 to 12 years, they could own every major corporation outright. Oil is now so valuable that the Saudi oil reserves are worth more than all of the companies traded on the New York Stock Exchange combined. The economic balance of power is shifting away from the U.S. and into the hands of governments that hate us. What's behind the skyrocketing price of oil? Are we running out of oil? Supply manipulation by OPEC and rising demand from emerging markets all contribute to higher prices. So too does uncertainty about geopolitical events that may impact future supplies. But beyond that, prices are escalating because many speculators are betting that we may be close to the point where global oil production is as high as it can go. Geologists call this moment peak oil. From then on, global production will steadily decline. Some estimates indicate we may reach peak oil within the next few years. When that happens, today's price increases and economic fallout will seem minor. We have to act now. Remember when record players were the only way to listen to music? When film was the only way to take a picture? When nobody wore seatbelts and everybody smoked? Things change. Driven by innovation and necessity, we learn to do things differently and to think differently. That's where we are with energy. Increasingly, there is focus on solar, wind, geothermal, nuclear, and hydrogen as alternative sources of energy. But they're all sources of electric power. And since we don't produce electricity from petroleum, these alternatives, while critical to our future, don't reduce our addiction to foreign oil. It's transportation that's dependent on foreign oil, and that's why the cure to our addiction lies in alternative fuels for our cars and trucks, with gasoline and diesel replacements like ethanol, methanol, DME, butanol, biogasoline, and biodiesel, and with electric cars, whether gasoline hybrids, plug-in hybrids, all-electric, or fuel cell vehicles. The most immediate thing car companies can do is to give consumers a choice in fuels. It costs the automakers only an extra $100 to build a car that can run on alternative fuels like ethanol and methanol. They already have the technology and know-how. Washington should mandate that every new car be a flex fuel car, and they should do it today. Some people think alternative fuel just means ethanol made from corn, but there are many options. Ethanol made from sugarcane produces more energy. Soon, ethanol will also be made from cellulose, algae, and other materials. And methanol can be made from agricultural and food byproducts, timber and paper refuse, coal, natural gas, and even CO2 captured from power plants. Most experts agree that beyond biofuels, the future of transportation is electric. Both GM and Toyota have announced plug-in electric hybrids for model year 2010. And starting next year, the all-electric Tesla Roadster will become available, offering 200 miles per charge. The good thing about electricity is you don't need foreign oil to produce it. What may also be in our future is specialization. Not too long ago, we simply had sport shoes. Now there are different shoes for different sports: running, tennis, basketball, and more. One day it'll be the same for cars. Today we have a family car. But in the future, we'll have short-distance hoppers that run on electricity or compressed air, and long-distance cars that run on a hybrid of batteries and alternative fuels. Above all, it's up to us. When we reduce consumption of foreign oil, we're making America stronger. We're cutting off funding for terrorists, and we're helping to protect the American dream. What could be more patriotic? The easiest way to get off oil is to start conserving today. Each of us can do our part. Drive less by working from home one day a week. Drive more efficient cars, or trade your gas-powered car for a hybrid. After all, Prius is the new Mercedes. And help create market demand for electric cars. Call GM and Toyota and put your name on the interest list for a plug-in hybrid. There's no commitment, but you'll be sending an important message that we're ready to end our addiction to foreign oil. Finally, you can create political demand. Call your representatives and urge them to support a flex fuel mandate for new cars. Make our dependence on foreign oil a topic in the election. Most important, become involved. Go to setamericafree.org and find out what else you can do. Our independence and our freedom are in your hands.